Hello, and this is a conversation in our series, Conversations with Wise Women. And in the series, I'm talking to wise women that I know about aging and what it takes to become a wise woman or a wise crone, and different aspects of the journey that they and I have taken. So we will see where these conversations go. And today's conversation is with Martha Langer. Martha is a vibrancy mentor. Her vibrancy services include yoga, meditation, color work, sacred sexuality, and spiritual counseling. And Martha has also written 2 books, one of which is about color and your essence as color, and the other one is about vibrancy. So we're going to be talking about Martha's books and also discussing between us as we age, the importance of sourcing identity from essence while remaining embodied. We're going to talk about caring for the body, and also may talk about the practices that each of us do, so you have an example from our lives. So, thank you, Martha. So, yeah, where shall we start then? Let me hear a little bit more about your book and why you decided to write it.
Well, first, I want to say hello to you, Beauty, and how grateful I am that we've gotten to spend time together over the past few years. It's been very special for me.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm also really glad to be here to perhaps illuminate in the viewers something that can be really beautiful for them. So glad to be here. And so your question was about me introducing my book. Is that what it was? Yeah. Okay. Well, I recently published a book called Embrace Your Vibrance, Practices for Vibrancy Activation. And it's a really sacred book for me personally because it's the culmination of 20 years of really diving deeply into my own soul and my own path and sharing it with my students over 20 years, but now sharing it like in physical form, which feels really, really good.
Yeah.
The concept for the book is really about, I don't know if your viewers can see, but each page, this whole book is meant to be a transmission of energy, of vitality and vibrancy, that we all have within us, a spark of vibrancy, and that spark dims over the course of our lifetime. And so I created this book to reveal my newly founded vibrancy, like the feeling of full body aliveness, and then included within it the 26 practices that brought me to that place. So it's meant to be both a transmission and an education of practices you can do. You can open any page at any moment and get a visual, spark of energy within you, and a following along of specific practices to be done.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say it's the most beautiful book as well, Martha. I mean, the photography is stunning for a start. And yeah, so it's just a lovely book to have, just to sort of feast on the beautiful images as well as the wise words, but it is the most beautiful book. And I just want to pick up on something you said about, our spark. So I put the headset on thinking I'd be clearer, but of course I keep knocking it. Our spark dimming over our lifetime, because of course, logic would say it doesn't have to, that one of the things that we might be doing is attending to keeping it alive. But in fact, probably most of us do have experiences of that spark dimming from time to time. I mean, maybe we've just diverged from our path and gone down a road which didn't quite work for us, or we've invalidated our intuitions and know we've made a wrong choice, or there may be many ways. And so really, I guess we're saying that, recovering vibrancy is also like a journey home back to yourself.
Yeah, very much. And for me, it was back to myself that I actually never even knew. Like it's not like, oh, I was like happy and free as a little kid and I lost it and I reclaimed it. It was more like, I don't even really have memories of that vibrancy, you know?
Yeah.
So it's almost like this brand new thing for me. For some people, it might be like, oh, it reminds me of when I was 5 and I had this amazing experience. But for me, it's more like unearthing my light for the first time, at least in my conscious life.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that, because one of my sort of views about aging, or the view that I decided to adopt for myself, is, okay, while the physical body might age and there might be some decay and decline, the spiritual essence is meant to get stronger.
Amen. It does.
Yeah.
With these practices, it does, as you know, sister.
Exactly. And I think that's, I mean, I think both you and I are down that line, that the practices are such a helpful part of that journey of tending to your spiritual light, and maybe so, like, you know, certainly transforming understanding in terms of not identifying so much with the physical, but more and more tending to the spiritual light. But the paradox is, you also need to attend to the physical, because it's the vehicle that you're housed in. And unless you tend to the physical, you may not have these so-called golden years to enjoy the fruits of the journey that you've been on.
Yeah. I mean, yes, everything you're saying. And also, I'm sort of feeling right now in my life that the physical is actually the most important. So what happens for me when I'm engaging in the practices in the way that are important to me is that I feel currents of energy running through my body. And those currents of energy that run through my body are my sacred essence. Yes, but it's the embodiment part of my sacred essence. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So the focus on the spiritual ascension only gets us so far. And as we're aging, it's just essential that we bring it down into the body. And those, you know, beautiful experiences in meditation or shamanic realms that we can experience, we want to bring them down into the body so that we feel energy currents through the feet, through the legs, through the pelvis, through the breast, through the shoulders, through the neck, through the skull. And it's that unification of the sacred divine essence blended with the physicality that bring us into feeling youthful and feeling good in our bodies.
Yeah. And also doing that work. I mean, I've been a Qigong practitioner for many years, which of course is an embodied practice. And certainly, you know, certain branches of Qigong are very healing focused. So the focus there is on, yes, you're feeling these currents of energy through your body. And it's about directing those currents of energy to the areas that need some healing, you know, in certain Qigong practices. So there's that aspect. And the other reason I like what you're saying is, you know, from a spiritual point of view, I know myself, you know, I've had big openings, but you do have to come back to the body. I mean, the openings don't mean that you're fully clear and have no more wounded material to work through, at least not in my experience. Sometimes it actually means when you go to those places that the other stuff comes up more strongly afterwards, in my experience. But it's sort of like you have to come back and make that journey. They call it the return journey in the Indian tradition that I followed, the return. But it's like, unless you make that return, you're not bringing the divine into form. And, you know, I believe that, you know, a wise woman giving her gifts, or the crone, if you like, that's really one of the tasks. It's like to take the journey and bring the gifts back.
Yes.
Do you agree?
So much. Yes, so much. So back for yourself and for people who you know and who you teach and who you share life with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that's one of the things that sort of inspires me to keep growing and keep practicing and keep working. So for me, that sort of, the term retirement doesn't, in terms of conventional retirement, doesn't have a lot of meaning, because I would always think, okay, I understand, people might want to retire from something that wasn't satisfying to them. And you and I could probably both speak to that, because we both worked in sort of corporate and professional roles in the past. I worked in HR management consulting, and as I understand it, you were a lawyer. So we've sort of retired from that and taken on other careers. So I understand people wanting to retire from something that suited a previous phase of life that no longer suits,
Or never suited them, really.
or never suited them. Yeah. So for me, the question is, what are you retiring into?
Yeah.
We'll talk about retirement, and what are you called towards now? And I can't see why that should stop just because you're 55 or 60 or 70, whenever you think this official date is of retirement, early or late.
Yeah, it would really be, for me, it would really be about that person who is thinking in terms of retirement or thinking in terms of aging as dad, to really drop into a different experience of self. That's so much of that is just cultural programming, that aging is bad and that retirement means you're old, right? Those are like old conditioning from the culture. And
Yes.
stepping into a new place of wait, here's an opportunity to drop closer into my soul and drop closer into my body as it's been housing me for all of these years, maybe without even making it precious. Maybe it's now time to make my body and myself precious for the first time.
Yeah, and that's, in a way, it's a bit like a revolutionary thought, isn't it? That is not the message that the culture gives us in any way. Are you given any message that that your body, you can improve it, or you can enjoy it if you haven't enjoyed it before? The messaging about aging doesn't suggest that.
Right. And you and I are here to say it's the opposite.
Exactly.
We get to actually take this time and all of our wisdom that we've gained and put it onto, or not put it onto, but like absorb it in our own being so that we can feel vital inside. And then, of course, when we feel vital inside, it radiates out of our pores. Like right now, as you talk about these topics that you are so passionate about, you're radiating light vibration coming out of you, right?
Yeah.
So you look super youthful and super beautiful because you're engaging in that which inspires you, right?
Yeah.
So that is what we're wanting for all of our fellow sisters who are aging, is to drop into body and breath and that which is inspiring. And then we radiate the beauty from the inside out. And it doesn't matter if there's a wrinkle or a line or some pudge or whatever it is that you think you don't like. It's just irrelevant when we prioritize the light within ourselves.
Exactly. I feel there's a hunger. I know for me, for many years, I looked at older women as role models, and of course there's never been many. And I suppose now I am that age that I would have looked to people in the past to show me a model of or a different model from what was being what I mostly saw. And I think there's a hunger to feel that level of vitality. And you're right. It's like, actually, the wrinkles and everything else don't matter if you've got that sense that this is a person who is awake and alive and
Inspired.
shining their light and contributing, and feels that they have something to offer. And I wouldn't claim to be consistent in that all the time. I know that there are times when I sort of, I go up and down a bit, and sometimes get caught into the messaging and think, oh yeah, maybe I should be retiring. Maybe I am past it. Things like that. It doesn't last very long. I can usually sort of address it, but it's like there's this cocktail of messages, like a big blanket of thick cloud, and there's a need to sort of like shift that out of the way so people can really see what they truly are still. And as you say, a lot of people have never discovered it, so why not now? Isn't this the perfect time, if you haven't discovered it before, to do it?
Yes,
at this time. So
we have choices in every moment. Are we watching mindless TV? Are we watching movies to pass our time? Are we eating food that's not good for us? Are we hanging out with people just because we're bored and don't want to be alone? Like, we can look at all of the sort of ways we're showing up in life, especially during this pandemic, and then say, wait, I'm going to choose differently. I'm going to do things differently because I want different results, right? I want to feel good. I don't want to feel like crap, right?
Mm.
And so that's why I just think it's so important. One of the reasons I think it's so important to commit to every morning, I'm going to show up for my light. I'm going to show up for the part of me that feels alive, inspired, and good. And even if I don't feel alive and inspired and good, I show up for it anyway, because then that transmutes some of it, right?
Yeah. And are there other things you do about, if you don't feel like showing up for it, you show up for it anyway? Because what is that?
Oh, besides my morning practice, you mean?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what I was thinking, and then I'd love to hear from you. Because what I was thinking is, there are days when I'm very committed. I have a practice, which I do, and my bottom line is, however I feel, I must do my practice.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
If we have one of those a day, we're changing the trajectory, right? We're creating a glitch in what's natural and the cultural programming.
Yeah.
Even just one a day. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. But I was also going to say the other side of it, if I'm really am feeling, if I'm having a so-called bad day, if you like, it is conversations like these, conversations with other women, and also the communities that I've belonged to or do belong to that help. Like, certainly in recent years, I've always been in some sort of coaching group, and some of those have been business and some of those have been personal. And I've worked in spiritual groups. I mean, I've always been in trainings and groups, really, probably for about the last 30 years. But for me, those things are important. I don't know if they are important to everybody, but for me, that is definitely part of my commitment, because I'm committing to myself, but I also feel that I would be, there's a commitment to other people that I'm connected to.
Yeah. Which is how we met, through a group. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely. I'm sorry, did you ask me a question that I didn't answer?
No, not really. I was just commenting, and I was just waiting to see whether you had a further comment.
No, just agree.
Talk a bit more about the essence then, and because you and I met through color work, or Anahita's program, Beauty Unleashed, and a lot of which is about dressing from essence. And the reason why I became interested in that was, as I aged, it was about finally wanting to sort of work out what suited me best. And I was also inspired by the ideas of authentic visibility and wanting to make sure that I dressed according to my essence, and therefore when I showed up, I was operating in a way that was consistent with my messages and my work as well. Do you have some comment on that?
Yes, I mean,
I'm sure you do.
The color work so much. It's really it was actually the doorway into my joy. I think, like, accessing really, really pure joy was the process and the journey that I went through with learning the colors that harmonize my hair, my skin, and my eyes. starting to embrace them, diving into the psychology around them, and each color having a different psychological component, and then starting to grow with them, and it's so cool. It's 4 years later for me, and I continue to grow with them, which is really really, really fun. For me, it was really a doorway into home first, like becoming home with myself, really finding myself on a deeper level. I've been practicing and teaching yoga for 16 years prior, and that allowed me to feel home and comfortable in my skin and become embodied on a certain level. But the colors were really a doorway into a new level of accessing and understanding the divine light that resides in such a powerful way. In such a powerful way that I said, Anahita, I need to learn how to offer this to my nieces, because imagine if little girls grew up understanding their divine essence, like what a different world we would have. Anyway, so I'm diverting. But
no, you're not, because I think that's such an important, I mean, I really like what you said, because for me as well, this wasn't really, the interest in the color work was not about fashion, which is often associated with fashion and image. It was more about you're revealing a person to themselves through this color palette.
Yes. And so I was able to understand new aspects of myself that I didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
For example, my warmth, like I used to dress in all cool colors, black and gray and white. And when I learned that I'm to wear all warmth, all warm colors, I then turned more warm to myself. Like I realized I'd been really cold to myself, my higher aspects, you know? And so by wearing warmer colors, I actually turned that warmth back to myself and learned over time through a path through a journey, many journeys, of how do I treat myself with more warmth, you know? And then of course that spills over to how I treat others with warmth, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a generalization of something that was really powerful for me.
Yeah.
That I am warm, you know? I'm not meant to be cold and rigid and all of those things that I was living for, many years. Anyway, it doesn't mean that if your colors are cool, by the way, that that's a bad thing. It just means that my essence is heat.
Yeah, I didn't take it that way. I took it that you were pointing to the fact that in your case, the way you've been dressing was so different from your essence. That's what I was taking from it.
Yeah. And now I just have so much joy with color. And when I analyze someone's colors, as soon as they receive their palette, like that day, they have a higher heightened consciousness around color, and color is around us all the time, right? And we can be oblivious to the power of it and how it affects our energy field. And so all of my clients, which I'm sure yours too, is like they have oh my gosh, I'm seeing in color, I'm understanding now, like color so differently just from receiving the palette, which is like, pre-kindergarten. I always say getting the palette is like kindergarten.
Yeah, it's the start.
Learning your palette is like
the journey, isn't it? It's like the ticket to the journey.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love the color work so much, which is why I now offer it to people, as you do too, and we have so much fun collaborating with it. So I feel grateful for the color work. Also, I want to say that I think it's okay that I go here, that the color work, is what brought me into the concept of sexual healing. The idea
more about that.
Yeah, this is the premise of the text of the book, and that is that it's actually our sexuality. What we know as our sexuality is our life force running through us as women.
Absolutely. And
the Shakti. Yeah, the Shakti. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's fun to talk about, and I'm sure some of the viewers will appreciate this, that the sexual energy that runs through us gets dimmed and stagnant and compartmentalized based on wounds and contractions and traumas and violations, and even the media's perception of what is beautiful. And all of those things dim our sense of vibrancy. And so it's by reclaiming our sexual currents through practice that brings us the most vitality. Again, like as I was saying, 16 years of yoga meditation got me to a certain place that was incredible. But the sexual piece took me to the real unification of my essence in my body, you know, on a much, much deeper level. And so that's why in the book, I advocate for, just like we do yoga, just like we meditate, we do sexual practice too, you know, including breast massage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think maybe you were going on to say it anyway, because you and I lost this again. You and I have talked about the importance of, in reclaiming or really getting in touch with that energy, how important that is to consider your relationship with yourself as being primary, and that, many women will have considered sexual energy as something that you share with another and may not have nurtured that relationship with themselves and seen that as primary.
Yeah. And so that's what this book is about, is our relationship with ourselves in all aspects, including our sexuality, comes from us first. It's a solo job. Our own vitality is a solo job, right? It's about us, engaging in our own sexual practices. That comes first. And then our choice of partners drastically changes. That which is okay with us it changes, right? That which is not okay with us in terms of who we're partnering with and for how long, the more our relationship with our own sexuality is whole and pure, And then there was something else I wanted to say that you just mentioned that you just brought up, but I lost it. So
I studied the Mantak Chia system for quite a number of years, the Universal Tao, and in that, the teachings in that system very much emphasize the sexual energy is the most powerful energy in the body, and that it's a shame just to waste it. So, that a lot of the trainings are about, learning to bring that energy through the different energy channels and use it both for healing, but also as you bring it through the energy channels, of course, it enhances, or what's the word I'm looking for? Expands everything that's there. So when you've got the material in your different layers of your energy body, the traumas, et cetera, of course, they can feel as though they've been enhanced initially. And emotions can therefore be heightened, etc. But actually, that's the
clearing.
That's to bring it. Yes, that's to bring it up for clearing. So that's, sexual energy is also a healing tool. It's not just a personal healing tool. It's not just a relational tool. And many people haven't sort of necessarily seen it that way before until they encounter these sorts of teachings. So I do think, yes, definitely part of a wise woman's journey.
And I'd like to add one thing. It's a healing tool. And then at the most ideal, it's actually a living tool, right? So it's healing us, but then what it's doing is if I'm running my sexual energy in my day, I have more energy. I'm excited about things. I'm more alive. I feel more vital and more charismatic, And so it's not just at this stage, and I'm sure you too, we're using the sexual energy through practice to heal, but then also to live with. So it has nothing to do with sexuality at some point, right? It has nothing to do with let's say self-pleasuring. If I can evoke my sexual energy and rise it up into my fingertips, then my fingertips are now going to be more elegantly directed and more purposeful, So yes, it's for healing first and getting in touch with self and mastering relationship with self and healing heart chakra and healing throat chakra, right? And then it becomes ideally a way of living in life.
Yeah, it's about expanding the whole view of sexual energy. And yes, it's partly about sexuality, but it's partly about a lot of other things as well. And again, as we age, it's useful to bring that energy into the body, as you've said, for the vitality.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's what we need, right? We need wise women in our world. We need women who have like insight and truth and conviction.
Yeah, and actually, we're really blessed that these teachings are now available, and that there are, you know, teachers and coaches and mentors around like you and me who have done these trainings and have had some initiations in these areas, and can combine it with the other work that we do with clients to give them a really holistic service. So, but we are lucky because for centuries these teachings were very esoteric and very hidden, and
We are so
they
lucky.
still are quite, you know, they're still esoteric, of course, but and you may need to have to root them out. They're not necessarily talked about in the mainstream, but they are available to us. They are available to us, so we can, anybody who wants to learn can.
Yeah. May I read the red page from the booklet?
Oh yes, please.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Okay. So as you know, I published a little booklet around the color work, which you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And I would love to read one of the pages about the color red that I can be good for the viewers, and also to know this was my doorway into my own
Can I just give another little introduction? So, because there may be people who are listening to this who don't really know what we're talking about when we're saying about the color work. So what Martha and I are talking about is creating individualized color palettes for people. So, you know, there are some very like predominant commercial systems which type people into seasons, and in the system that Martha and I follow, there is some typing into seasons as well, but the actual palette is individual. You do not get a standard palette like, you know, you're in autumn and here are your colors. It's all very individual, and there's a lot more to it than there's the colors in your skin, your hair, and your eyes, but there's a lot more to it. There's a psychological side to it. So that's what we're talking about, and the way that Martha and I've learned to do these color analyses is often yes, sure, there is the renovation of the wardrobe, but there is also a lot about personal development, which is what Martha has been talking about. So Martha's book she wrote as a result of doing the work, and what she's going to read you about the red is that everybody has their own color, a best red for them. Go ahead.
Okay. And this whole book is poem format, so it makes it fun. Everyone has a shade of red. Embracing it makes us more divinely led. It's your color of celebration and romance. When you wear it, you'll become one who sweetly enchants. Effective for both emotional persuasion and passion, it matters not what is in fashion. As red is the most powerful color on the spectrum, please refrain from wearing it if it's possible someone would have a tantrum. As it enhances the energies that are present, and we want you and your friends to feel pleasant. Wearing the wrong shade of red can also cause you to be perceived as emotionally unstable. So learning your red prevents you from being mislabeled. Red, burgundy, orange, magenta, and pink. Wearing it at the appropriate celebratory occasion will make you in sync, and for sure, other people will wink.
It's wonderful. It's such a wonderful poem that I believe it came to you, right? Just one day.
No, it was like 4 a.m. Yeah.
4 a.m. Yeah. Well, of course. all the best things come at times.
Yeah. But so what I wanted to say is, so this red is really important, because from what happened with me is that when I learned that my red was a very spicy orange, sort of like the color here on my top, very spicy, bright orange, I actually wanted to vomit. Like, I thought it was like, there's no way I would wear this color. Like, it really had a really severe reaction to that color and the potential of wearing it. And so by gradually learning and, you know, playing with it, it brought me into my sexual traumas when I was little, and it brought me into facing and beginning to embrace the parts of me that had sexual wounding. And then, of course, diving into it and transmuting it into the light.
Oh, thank you for offering that, because I think that's not good for people to have an example of what can come from having your palette done. It can take all sorts of places. And I know for me that, of course, you can see my age from my hair and stuff. I'd spent years doing different forms of personal and spiritual development, but it was like this palette work got to a place that nothing else had reached.
Yeah.
I
know it's beautiful to watch you transform with it.
Yeah, and it's so much fun as well. So so maybe this is a sort of a fairly good note to finish off and tell people how they can get hold of each of us and how they can get hold of your books. Martha, can you buy the books on the website, or do they need to go to Amazon?
Well, the links to both of them are on my website. So it's best to just go to my website, embraceyourvibrance.com.
Yeah. So that's,
Martha Langer is my name. And both of these books will come up, this one from Amazon, and then this one from Balboa Press. And then you can just purchase them from those links and reach out to me if, email me, or if you want to chat more about them, or if you want to learn more about my offerings, because it's all so fun. And
it is.
And I really feel like it's appropriate as we age to get better, right? To expand our light.
Absolutely. And those books, by the way, you can get on amazon.co.uk as well, not only in the US. Martha's in New York. I'm in the south of London. So anybody who is inspired by what we say and wants their palettes done, I would suggest that these do need to be done face to face, really. So
actually, I'm doing them online now, Catherine.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't done that yet, but I will talk to you about that. Yeah.
Doing them online, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Loving doing them online.
Because yes, especially given the current situation, there is a need to offer online. So if you're interested, you can get hold of either Martha or me to discuss that. And as you've heard, Martha is also running a program. You're starting a program soon, right?
I'm only working with people privately right now. I will be creating a group program, but not yet. No.
Okay, so to work with Martha, you've heard her website, embraceyourvibrance.com.
Yes, and my private program is called Vibrantly Activated You.
Yep. So to learn more about Vibrantly Activated You, you can set up a time to speak to Martha and to speak to me, or to learn more about the Wise Woman's Journey.
Wise Woman's Journey. I want to send like all of my, over 55s to you.
Great. Yeah. Yes, my age range is fairly broad for anybody who feels that they're sort of dealing with the issues of the so-called third age of life, which of course impacts us at different points. Probably the earliest would be mid-40s, but yes, up into the 70s. So, but yeah, probably lots of people who are sort of like in the 55 to 65 age range, being right smack in the middle. And my website is catherinerowan.com.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was delightful to be with you today, dear.
Thank you, Martha. That was great. And well, it's inspired me, actually. I love talking about this stuff, and my energy definitely raises when I talk about it, and I feel a lot more vibrant by the end.
Yes. Yay.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.